the wreckage of what was the World Trade Center for himself. From Washington, CNN's Major Garrett has more on Mr. Bush's visit. Major?
Morning, Jonathan. Before we talk about the president's visit yesterday to New York, I can just tell you the president is due to meet with his entire national security and diplomatic team today, and they are clearly paying very close attention to the activities both in Pakistan and the statements from the Taliban in Pakistan and then the statements from the Taliban government in Afghanistan. The president and his national security team weighing all options, military and otherwise, and will be meeting throughout the day to weigh those options. As for the president's visit to New York yesterday, he wanted to get to New York just as soon as possible. There's been quite a good deal of security concerns here at the White House. I can tell you the Secret Service was lobbying against this trip, considering it a bit of a risk for the president to go up to New York City. The president pressed ahead. And when he arrived in New York City, he toured the damage at the World Trade Center and then had this to say to the workers he has often described as heroic, who are dealing with a massive recovery effort there.
Well, I'm shocked at the size of the devastation. And it's hard to describe what it's like to see the gnarled steel and broken glass and twists the building, silhouetted against smoke. I said that this was the first act of war on America in the 21st century, and I was right, particularly having seen the scene. However, out of the rubbles and ash and ugliness, there's a lot of good, starting with the guys from LA that are here. They've come all the way over from California to help brothers and sisters in need. That's a symbol of the greatness of the country. This is a country that's coming together. I was also struck by how angry many of the workers were, in spite of the fact that they had worked to exhaustion. Yeah, they're angry. They're angry at the people who did the crime. They're angry at the people who destroyed life. They're angry at people who caused the devastation. And as I said, I heard they're angry. And America will feel the same way. And our response will be one that is justified.
So what's your level of satisfaction with how the investigation is progressing and how the intelligence gathering is going at this point?
I am satisfied that America has rallied during this terrible tragedy. I'm satisfied that the compassion of the nation has risen to the surface. I'm satisfied that if in any community, if we asked for help, we would find it. I'm also satisfied that the 4,000 FBI agents are working tirelessly to gather all the evidence that can be gathered, to find those who may still be in our country if they are here. I'm satisfied that our planning for possible future actions is going on course. But most of all, I'm satisfied and I'm pleased to be an American. This is a proud moment for our country. Out of this terrible devastation and ruin, the greatness of America shines forth. And I'm here just to, as best as I possibly can, to thank the American people who are helping here and to give comfort to those who hurt. A lot of the firefighters who we saw had tears in their eyes because they lost loved ones. And their brothers are missing. You know, it's a sad moment to be with them. And the least I can do is to give them a hug and maybe encourage them some. Are you close to the permanent peace?
The least the president could do, he said, is give a hug or two. Senior White House officials say that while the president was in New York at the Jacob Javits Center, he was scheduled to meet for about an hour and a half with family members of those missing and feared dead in the wreckage of the World Trade Center towers. That meeting ended up lasting more than 3 hours, the family members clutching the president's hand, asking him at times to sign autographs, just to be with them. Many, many hugs exchanged. The president, overwhelmed with the grief he saw, did his part, as he told aides later, to offer some semblance of comfort, some spiritual sustenance to those who are grieving so very deeply. Jonathan?
Major Garrett, thanks very much. We want to bring you some news not related to the attacks in the U.S. A gunfight broke out overnight between Israeli troops and Palestinians. There are conflicting reports about what happened, though. Palestinian security sources say the Israeli army entered a section of the West Bank under full Palestinian control. It's known as Area A. Palestinians say the troops occupied a checkpoint and used it to shoot from. Israelis confirm there was an exchange of gunfire, but deny an incursion into that Area A. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society says 4 Palestinians were wounded in the fighting.
And back to our coverage of America's new war. We've heard the accounts of victims of Tuesday's attacks making phone calls to their loved ones. There were many I love yous, the last thing that people were hearing, and many also called and found answering machines.
You can well imagine that families are holding on to those words, reflecting and treasuring what they've heard. Thelma Guterres reports.
September 11th, American Airlines Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower. Jill Gartenberg's husband is inside.
He called my office. I got to my office probably 2 minutes after he left his first message on my machine saying there was a fire in his building on his floor. He didn't know if he was going to make it.
18 minutes later, United Flight 175 slams into the South Tower. Lori Van Auken's husband, Kenneth, makes a final call home.
It was just horrible. It was really just horrible. I could hear the terror in his voice, and he was trying to sound like he was calm for us, but you could hear the chaos in the background and the terror in his voice.
I hope I live.
Some 30 minutes later, somewhere above the Pentagon on American Airlines Flight 77, Barbara Olson calls her husband Ted and tells him hijackers have taken over.
She told me that she had been herded to the back of the plane. She mentioned that they had used knives and box cutters to hijack the plane. I had to tell her about the 2 airplanes that had hit the World Trade Center.
Why?
I just felt that I had to.
On United Flight 93 over Pennsylvania, Thomas Burnett calls his wife.
And he said that somebody was already dead, that they had stabbed somebody, and that they were all going to die, and that they were going to try to do something.
Mark Bingham calls his mother in the midst of chaos.
He said, I just want to let you know that I love you all. There are 3 men on board who have taken over the aircraft, and they say they have a bomb. And at that point, we were cut off. He wasn't able to say anything else.
Moments later, the plane went down, and families forever lost their chance to talk with one another.
Some family members will take comfort in the fact that they were able to say their goodbyes, that they were able to express certain feelings that they have, such as I love you.
Annalisa Van Kirk is a medical social worker who deals with trauma.
That they were able to communicate with the people in their lives that were important to them, and that we can take comfort from.
One of the last things Melissa Hughes did on September 11th is call her husband Sean.
Sean, it's me. I just wanted to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. A plane hit the building or a bomb went off, we don't know, but there's lots of smoke, and we just wanted you to know that I love you always.
Thelma Gutierrez, CNN, Los Angeles.
Grief counselors say that everyone mourns in their own way, but what's hardest for those pacing New York streets is that they're still waiting to find out if they have someone to mourn.
I just wanted to work through that door and make everything go away.
We're still hoping. It's getting harder to hope.
People are realizing that they may not ever have knowledge of where their loved one is, and I think that's been devastating.
We just saw names of, people confirmed safe, and that was it, but his name unfortunately wasn't on it.
I haven't lost hope since 9:15 in the morning on Tuesday, and I'm not going to lose hope until I get the call that my brother's dead.
I felt relieved because he is not on the list, so therefore there is still a possible chance that he is alive and he is doing at least somewhere in some of the hospital system and unidentified.
I think the heavens opened up because they're all in mourning for New York City, for Washington, for everybody that's been struck by this devastation.
There are some people who are being very stoic and perfunctorily just going through the process. There are other people who are at very high levels of emotion, who are very grief-stricken and distraught.
We're hoping and praying for miracles, but they become very difficult. I think reality's sort of setting in.
As the days goes on, you see hope dissipating, and you see people coming to the realization of the magnitude that this event has caused on them and the city and the country.
Remember, you can email photos of missing friends or relatives of the missing at CNN.com, or just go to CNN.com and click on the link. The pictures will be posted on our website along with emergency contact phone numbers. So please make sure you send a contact number along with the picture.
Our coverage of America's new war continues into the next hour with more live reports from around the globe, so do stay with CNN. For now, I'm Jonathan Mann.
And I'm Zane Verdi. We leave you now with sounds and images from Friday's prayer service at the National Cathedral in Washington.
Those of us who are gathered here, Muslim, Jew, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist, Hindu, all people of faith, want to say to this nation and to the world that love is stronger than hate, and that love lived out in justice will in the end prevail.
Today we gather to be reassured that God hears the lamenting and bitter weeping of Mother America, because so many of her children are no more.
With broken and humble hearts, and with tears in our eyes, we turn to you, our Lord, to give us comfort. Help us in our distress. Keep us together as people of diverse faiths, colors, and races. Keep our country strong for the sake of the good and righteousness.
My prayer today is that we will feel the loving arms of God wrapped around us, and will know in our hearts that He will never forsake us as we trust in Him.
On this National Day of Prayer and Remembrance, we ask Almighty God to watch over our nation and grant us patience and resolve in all that is to come. As we've been assured, neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth can separate us from God's love. May He bless the souls of the departed. May He comfort our own. And may He always guide our country. God bless America.